Are you interested in building a career in the development and humanitarian sector? Then, Strategia Netherlands is the best option for you. We offer training solutions to the United Nations, governments, NGOs and other development organizations worldwide. Make your online application now for Diploma in Monitoring and Evaluation, Diploma in Grants Management, Diploma in Conflict Management, Diploma in Disaster Management, Diploma in Water Sanitation and Hygiene, and many more. The cost for diploma courses is 800 euros, while postgraduate courses cost 1,200 euros. Visit www.strategianetherlands.nl for more information. Are you interested in building a career?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're logging from. My name is John Karegwa. I want to welcome you to this webinar. Today, we're going to focus on digital solutions for monitoring and evaluation. And this webinar is sponsored by Strategia Netherlands and TolaData from Germany. So you're welcome. And before we start, I can see the world is well represented here. So please indicate in the chat room where you're logging from. So we want to welcome you and thank you for joining in. Just indicate in the chat room. I can see New Guinea. Thank you very much, New Guinea. Please indicate in the chat room where you're logging from. South Africa, thank you, South Africa, Nigeria, Germany, Niger, Kenya, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Thailand, Indonesia, Italy, Uganda, Somalia, Pakistan, Morocco, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Netherlands, Ghana, Lebanon, Pakistan, Yemen, Zimbabwe. Thank you, Nigeria. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. And the program is basically, we will invite Joe Bennett from TolaData and the CEO of TolaData, Malte Hofner, to do the presentation. Then we will take questions and answers, and then we'll be done. So basically, we should take about 2 hours to run this webinar. And I want to invite Joe Bennett right away to take over the program. Thank you very much, everybody, and I hope we have a lot to learn together in this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John, and hello, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be speaking with you all around the world. I'm in Berlin, in Germany, so I'm the CEO of TolaData, and we are a German social tech company that provides a web-based monitoring and evaluation solution specifically for nonprofits. And we've been around for about 5 years now, but the product that we have, TolaData, actually has been around even longer. It was actually very first designed and conceived in Afghanistan, and that's why it has the name TolaData. Some of you might recognize the word Tola, which is Pashto for all, because it's about all your data and bringing it all together. We're really excited to speak to you today about digital solutions in monitoring and evaluation. I've been with TolaData for about 5 years, but before that, I worked always in the NGO sector, including with Save the Children, where I worked for more than 7 years. In my final role with them, I was the Director of Grant Management. So I'm really passionate about how we monitor and manage our projects in the development sector and the systems and processes that we use to do that. So it's really a pleasure to be with you today. And I'll just hand over to my colleague, Malte, who can also introduce himself.
Thanks a lot, Joe. My name is Malte. I'm very happy to be speaking to all of you. Welcome to our seminar. I'm the COO at TolaData. I have been working here for 4 years in international development for nearly 15 years and also in software development. And I mainly work with our development team, who is based both in Berlin, Germany, as well as in Nairobi, Kenya. So really looking forward to showing you and speaking about M&E and digital tools in it today.
Great, thank you. And so I'm going to share my screen now. I'll just stop my video so I can share my screen. And hopefully you can all see my screen now with the presentation on it.
We can.
Great. So We've done our quick introductions of ourselves. Let's dive into what we wanted to speak with you about today and the conversation that we'd like to have. So we thought to get started, we'd go back to basics. We're not sure, we've got a lot of people on the call. Maybe some of you are already monitoring and evaluation professionals. Maybe some of you work in other areas in development. So we thought we'd just very quickly go back to, why is monitoring and evaluation important? Why are we putting so much effort into this particular area? And then we'll move into thinking about how can digital tools help us with monitoring and evaluation, and then start looking at the first part of that. So getting started with digital data collection and give you some demos around that. Then we'll move into how you bring all your data together. So really thinking about how you manage your data and consolidate it all. Then we'll take a bit of a look at making the most of your data. So starting to get into some of those things around calculations and analysis. And don't worry, we're not going to get too technical with you. We really want to show you some ways that there can be simple ways that digital tools can help you actually do some of the important calculations and analysis that you need to do. Then we'll go into the big important piece, which is telling the world about what you've achieved, sharing your results, reports, dashboards, all of those important parts at the other side of your data cycle. And then at the last bit, we just wanted to take a little bit of a time to talk about data storage and knowledge retention. And we've titled this Making Choices to Help Future You, because that's really what it's about. It's about thinking into the future of what you're going to need and making sure you're set up to help yourself out when that time comes. And then we'll have plenty of time for questions and discussion at the end. But if you do have questions during this, please feel free to write them in the chat. So while I'm speaking, Malta will be monitoring that chat, and we'll swap through the calls. So really looking forward to the conversation we can have today. So let's first get into why monitoring and evaluation is important. And of course, first and foremost, it's about counting the things that you've done, keeping track of the things you've done so that you can report it back to your donors. We all know that we have to do that. But M&E can offer so much more than that. And it's really, beyond that, it is about transparency and accountability, which we all know is just so key in our sector, not just for our donors and our stakeholders, but also for the beneficiaries and the communities that are being served by these projects. They also deserve to be able to understand what's happened and how it's happened, and be able to hold everyone to account for the services that they're receiving. It also can help ensure that resources are used efficiently, because if you can see where your work has been done, you can also identify where the resources are being used or where resources maybe should be redirected to. Around that as well, it also improves decision making, so it can make sure that your decisions are based on actual data and evidence, not just maybe guessing what's happening. If something isn't going right or something is going right, you've got the data to understand what you did that you might need to change or what you want to do more of. And that ties into this last piece on the slide, which is about identifying problems early. And M&E really can help you see if you're on track or not, so that you can make course corrections and changes early in your project, not just discover maybe halfway through or at the end when you do your donor report and you think, oh dear, we should have done something a bit differently. And by then it's too late. So it really is about integrating it into the ways that we are directing our projects, managing our projects, and delivering our work. We actually have a blog that was written by one of the team at TolaData, which talks about why monitoring and evaluation is good for NGOs. We will share these slides at the end, so you can go and read more about it in that blog. We've got a little diagram here which talks about some of the key benefits you can have around improved project performance, learning and data-driven decision-making, and just also systematic and professional management, really getting good structures in place so that you can deliver things in the best way that you can. And I really encourage you to go and read that blog if you'd like to learn more. But of course, today, the thing that we really want to get into is digital solutions. And in order for us to all have the same thoughts in mind as we go into that, just wanted to talk a bit about some of the key elements of an M&E plan so that we all have the same pieces in place. And there's more aspects to an M&E plan, but some of the key pieces that I just wanted you to have in mind as we start looking at digital tools is that your M&E plan would have a logic model or a results framework, something that's explaining how you think your changes are going to happen based on the activities you do. You'll have an indicator plan or a log frame. This will probably be set up perhaps in the format that your donor has required. And there's a lot of formats out there that can help you design that. That puts in place also things like your assumptions, the risks involved, how you're going to count things. Just a little reminder that you'll always want your indicators to be smart indicators. I'm sure you're all familiar with that, but making sure that they are measurable, that they're specific, and so that you know that these are indicators that are really going to be practical for you to use on the ground. And then lastly, you want to make sure you've got an implementation plan, and really specifically, and this will come up as we keep talking, is having a data collection plan in place. So really at the beginning of your project, you've got that M&E plan that's really thought about how we're going to monitor, how we're going to collect data, and how that's going to be part of the activities that we're doing and the project work that we're doing. So you've got your team convinced, you've convinced your managers, you've prepared your M&E plan, you're ready to start monitoring your project. And then the rest is easy, right? Or maybe not so easy, as this little cartoon can show. And I'm sure that many of you, I've been in the development sector for a long time, and for a time when we didn't have a lot of digital solutions or digital tools. And really, there was so much paperwork involved. My first job with Save the Children was doing internal audit. And I used to have to sort through piles and piles of files of paperwork, to try and keep track. Everything had to be documented by paper. And it's a huge job just to keep track of that administration, and just to then have all those paper files and store them and label them and make sure you know where everything is so you can find it again when you need it. And that's really where digital tools in the first instance can come in and help, right? They can really take the pain out of that, when all of that paperwork can be converted into a digital set of library and data that you can then access and store. And digital tools can do so much. And I know there's a lot on this slide, but we wanted to make sure that you had this when we shared the slides later, you would have all this information. But digital tools can really help you in so many ways. For example, they can improve the data quality. Because when you think about it, every time you were using data, if you were collecting data on a paper form and then you translated it into another summary form and then you put it into a report, every time you had to manually do something with that data, there's a risk of errors entering your data set. We're all human, and you have very large data sets. There's always a risk that there's a little bit, maybe something gets keyed incorrectly or there's a typo. So digital data really makes it so much easier, because once it's digitized, then you just transfer it digitally between systems or into new calculations. It's also a lot easier to clean and quality assure your data once it's digital. You can also really automate a lot of steps in your data processing. So rather than manually having to transfer it through every step, you can automate the process with your calculations, with your aggregations, your visualizations, and even reporting. And we'll start to see some of this today as we dive into looking at how some of the tools work and how data can move through solutions when it's digital. Digital data also gives you real-time insights. And this is a huge benefit in the world that we work in. There was a time when something would happen far out in the field, and that data would have to be transferred to perhaps the field office, and then a regional office, and then a country office, and then maybe the regional office above the country. And all of that process took a lot of time. Now you can have access to what's happening far out in the field across many different locations, all at the same time and almost in real time. And that connection with remote locations, that real-time access, it just is such a huge benefit for everyone. It really bridges the gap so everyone knows what's happening in real time and makes that collaboration process so much more seamless and quicker. Digital tools also help you implement best practices. So when you use digital tools, they guide you through the process of how you want to set things up. They can give your team hints into ways that they want to do things. You can also help guide your teams by setting up processes in a digital tool. And this really helps you just implement best practices throughout. It means that not everyone has to be an M&E expert to be able to implement good M&E practices in their work. And that's just such great news for all of us in how we're working, to know that we have these tools that can help us. They also can really help us with knowledge management and data retention. And this is something I'm going to come back to at the end, as somebody who spent a lot of time doing grant management and dealing with donor audits and internal audits, I really think a lot about this issue of data retention and knowledge management, and digital tools have simplified that so much. And we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. There's a lot of tools out there as well, and that's something we wanted to talk a little bit about. And the way that we think about tools is we try to kind of group them. So we've got the first group of tools where you've got data collection tools, and maybe many of you have started using these digital data collection tools. There's the ODK-based ecosystem, of which CoBot Toolbox is also based on that. We're going to do a bit more of a dive into CoBot Toolbox today with a demonstration of that. But there's lots of other tools that can help you collect your data. There's Survey CTO, Survey Solutions. You can use Google Forms. TolaData, our tool, also has a form builder that works for web-based online data collection. So you've got all those data collection tools that you will use depending on what you need for your particular project. You then come to the next stage, which is about the management of that data and the reporting and tracking your results. And there's a few different tools that you can use. Of course, we've got our tool, TolaData, and we know there's some other tools like Legalto and Dev Results. And we wanted to highlight, you would pick the tool that fits best to your program and your organization. We're going to talk a little bit about how you might decide which tool to use. And then at the last end, we've also got advanced BI analysis that you might want to do. And this is where you get into some really deep analytics of your data with tools such as Power BI, Tableau, and Superset. And all of these tools can integrate, especially when you use TolaData. We'll talk a bit about how we integrate with these other tools so that you can have a seamless flow of data across the full data cycle. So we're happy to answer some questions about how you pick tools or how you decide which tools to use, or perhaps which tools you're using, and maybe you want to think about how to integrate with other tools. So to go into a bit more detail on this question of how do I choose which tool to use? So the most important question I would always encourage you to ask yourself is, what is appropriate to my context and my requirements? There's different tools out there, and they each have different USPs. They have different strengths that they can bring to you. So, what type of project are you doing? How many organizations are involved? How much complex is it? How much data do you have to gather? What's the technical skill of the staff involved? All of these can help you think about which tools will be appropriate. A really important question for yourself, and one that we talk about a lot with TolaData, is integration with other tools. There's not necessarily one tool out there that does everything. So when you're picking your tools, think about the full ecosystem. How will your data collection tool integrate with the tool you're going to use to manage your data, and perhaps then integrate with a BI tool if you want to do some complex analysis at the end? You really want to avoid data silos where you've got data stuck in one place and you can't connect it to all of your other data. You also want to think about online versus offline. When do you need to have offline? And really, offline matters the most when you're doing your data collection, and tools like CoBot Toolbox are great for that because they work offline. But then maybe when people are sitting at their desks and doing their data management and their analysis, they don't need to work offline. Then you can prioritize other features of your tools. You also want to think about data protection. So we'll talk a little bit about this at the end, but of course we all know things about GDPR have become really critical, and where your donors are and what requirements they have for data protection. So then you need to think about, where is the data in my tool going to be stored? And because a lot of tools work as cloud-based tools now, and they provide that hosting, it's important that you've had a look at that when you're picking your tool. The next one is one that for me is really close to my heart, and that's making sure that your tools are user-friendly. Because you can come up with the best tool in the world, but if it isn't a valuable tool for the people who need to use it day to day, if it doesn't help them do their job, if it isn't easy to use, they're not going to enjoy using it, and then it's going to be an additional burden on them. And what we really want to do with digital tools is reduce the reporting burden, right? We really want to make it easier for everyone to do their jobs, not add more administrative tasks to them. And so I think keeping that in mind as you look at digital tools is really important. And of course, lastly, there's the cost to set up, which is also a very key factor for many organizations. So something we'd also like to think about is, and I've seen this in my time working in the sector, we've gone from a time when there weren't a lot of digital tools really built for NGOs and for development work. And So we had to custom build tools every time we needed to do something. But that's changed a lot. There's a lot of tools now that are available off the shelf, and it's much more cost efficient to access them. And you can also choose tools that don't require customization or any IT installation. You can just get going with them straight away. And TolaData is one of those tools. You can just log in online, create an account and start using it. You don't need to invest in the setup or the customization of it to get going with it. And so I want to hand over now to my colleague, Malta, who's going to talk about digital data collection. And while I do that handover, just if anybody has any questions that maybe someone wants to flag to me if they've come up, they can get going with those. I'm not seeing, I don't know if anyone saw any questions that they wanted to flag to me. Otherwise, I'll let Malta keep going as he talks about digital data collection.
There are a number of hands raised. Let's go to Hadiza. Nick, please let Hadiza ask her question.
Or perhaps, John, we could ask if everyone with your hands raised, if you wanted to write the questions in the chat, we'd be able to see them. We can also respond to you there.
Hadiza, please go first. I think she has someone has a question. Please raise your question. Unmute yourself, please. I don't know. I think she's not responding. Now, can you take the next question from Evans Okonjo, please? Please unmute Evans Okonjo.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. My question is, will be a certificate?
We will share the presentations, but
Yes.
not certificates, because this is a guest present, training.
Great, thank you. So in this part, we're going to talk about digital data collection and also show you a practical example of how that could work. So before we show you the practical example, let's just quickly summarize some of the advantages that we have from digital data collection compared to paper-based data collection. So you see of them here down below, that digital data collection is more cost effective, it's time saving, efficient, and if you run other really nice things, and Joe already alluded to some of the reasons why that may be. So if we kind of imagine or remember how paper-based data collection used to work, you would have a sheet of paper, you would go to the field, you would fill it out in handwriting, and then you would maybe at the end of the day, you would come back to the NGO's office, and you would have to transfer your data from the paper into a digital system or to a table such as Excel. And there you already see that it takes a lot of time to do that. You're nearly duplicating your work because you're basically retaking the survey by just typing it down to your computer. It's also very error prone. Maybe you cannot read the handwriting of your colleague. In short, it takes a lot of time, and there are also many really nice advantages of digital data collection that you cannot use if you're using a paper-based system, such as automatic data validation, the tracking of geolocation data, and so forth. So there are really a lot of advantages of working with digital data collection tools. And today we're going to show you one example of such a tool, a digital data collection tool, which we at TolaData really like. It's called CoBot Toolbox. Many of you probably are familiar with it. It's a free tool, ODK-based. It's an open source tool, initially developed by the Harvard Humanitarian Initiative and also supported by UN OCHA. We've linked at the bottom, we've linked the registration link and the web-based interface, CoBotToolbox.org, and there also is a mobile application and the usage of which we will show to you what I'll do now, I'll just go into the CoBot web server first. So This is after you've registered for CoBotToolbox.org, your account. You can create several forms if you want to. And today we'll have a look at one of those forms as an example. It's a very simple form that we created for tracking feedback regarding a workshop that has been carried out. And with CoBot Toolbox, you can also design your form very freely. You may know some of these tools. It's like survey builders. So tools such as CoBot Toolbox help you to configure your service and your questionnaire. So you can it's possible to add different kinds of fields, text fields, number fields. You can ask for photos. You can ask for geolocation. So in short, you can really customize your survey and your data collection in the way that you would want to. And once such a survey has been designed, what you can then do is you can start collecting data with it. I'll show you in a second how that works, but before we do that, I'll just show you that 2 submissions have already been done towards this workshop survey data collection form. And now for the next step, I'm gonna switch to my phone, so maybe you can see that. I'll just hold it in the camera. What tools such as CoBot Toolbox have, they do offer really nice mobile phone applications which can be downloaded on a mobile phone or a tablet. In the case of CoBot, this is called CoBot Collect. And the one beauty of it is that it works offline. And that is an application or use case that we see with many of our clients who work in environments where there may not always be a mobile connection available. So what they do is they download the CoBot Collect app to their phone or to their tablet, and they download the data collection form, which they've just created online. So in our case, the workshop survey. And then they fill it out on their form, and they can do that offline. So I'm just gonna, it's a short survey, so I'm just gonna punch in some names. It is asking for my name, so I'll pretend my name is Sarah. I'm like, let's say 43 years old. And I can select a date where I participated in the workshop, and I can provide a rating, and I say I was satisfied with the workshop, and I can click on Save Form and Exit. And then CoBot Toolbox or the CoBot Collect on my phone offers me the option to send the finalized form, which I do. So I'm clicking on Send Selected, and now it says Sending Form, Upload Results, Workshop Survey, Successful Submission. So that was the data collection part on my phone, and now we can refresh here and on the tool itself, on the web interface, and you see that the entry, which I just did like 20 seconds ago on my phone, is now stored here on the CoBot Toolbox server, which means that now I can have a look at the data. I can do different things with it, and in the next step of like a bit later in our presentation, we will start working with that data, and we will see how it can be linked to a further process in the M&E process, namely the data analysis and then also the reporting. So this, just in a nutshell, we'll come back to that, as we said. So this in a nutshell is just how a digital data collection tool could work. So again, the advantage are digital just saves you a lot of time compared to paper-based. It can work offline, so you really have the flexibility, and you can link that data to other tools for further analysis. So just, I'm just going to share my screen and the slideshow again. So just before we go into the data analysis part, just some final tips to get most out of your data collection efforts. What we see with many clients, or what is best practice in the sector, is to map the whole data cycle. And the idea here is that before setting up your data collection forms, you're already thinking about, okay, how is the data that I'm going to collect using my data collection forms, how is that data connected to my indicators? Do I gather the data that is necessary to fill my indicators? And there's a thin line between gathering enough data and gathering too much data, because you also don't want to gather too much data for various reasons. One is that there is this idea of just collecting as much data as you need to, not much more. it also means gathering too much data would also means that you would increase your workload, and it has an effect on data protection as well. So what our clients do, or what we often see, is that our advice is to practice responsible data collection. There's multiple elements around that. So I'm just we're providing you a definition that we really liked what responsible data collection means. So that stems from the Responsible Data Forum. So the idea behind responsible data collection is that it is the duty to ensure people's rights to consent, privacy, security, and ownership around the information processes of collection, analysis, storage, presentation, and reuse of data, while respecting the values of transparency and openness. And this is, we advise that as a best practice. If you are bound to GDPR, as many organizations based in the European Union are, that is something that from a legal perspective you would have to do anyways. And even if you're not bound by GDPR, we strongly recommend applying these principles. Furthermore, another really important aspect of digital data collection is ensuring the data quality. So you may want to perform data validation, data cleaning before you kind of process into the data analysis part, because obviously if you have some, not so clean data, then the analysis may be a little bit off. So that's another important step to take before performing the data analysis. And finally, but this applies to the entire process, choose tools to fit your project. That I guess is a general thing. And when it comes to data collection, there's a really nice article called The 10 Commandments for Survey Creation, which we've linked in our presentation. So we encourage you to have a look at that. It talks about some principles, how digital data collection or surveys should be created. So I'll hand back to Joe, who now is going to talk about what we can do with data that we've collected with a tool such as CoBot Toolbox.
Great, thank you so much, Malte. And I'm going to share my screen again. Malte, maybe you can just confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Great. So that data collection piece, you've gone out, you've collected all your data, maybe you've used several tools, you've got Kobo, perhaps there was a little bit of paper-based collection, maybe that was appropriate still in some places, maybe you've used multiple different tools to collect your data. So you've got all this beautiful data and you're thinking, amazing, now what do I do? And of course, the next step is how you bring all that data together and really start to see what it's telling you and read into it. So I wanted to give you an example. Oh, something's just come up that says my video is unavailable. Okay. I wanted to give you an example of how TolaData, I don't know why there's something coming up here. I can't seem to show this screen. I'm just going to escape out of this so that maybe I can show this screen like this. So I wanted to give you an example of how TolaData integrates in the data cycle, because Malte and I have both been talking about you use different tools, you integrate them together. And we really think a lot about that at TolaData. And the reason TolaData actually, very first time it was designed back in Afghanistan, it was because the team there who were looking at it, they were thinking, we're collecting data with all these different tools. How do we bring it together? Can we have a system that integrates with lots of different tools? And that's exactly what TolaData does. So we've got, again, the three main bands of work. So you've got your data collection over here, and this could be an example of an organization, how they work. Perhaps they do their data collection with lots of different tools. And with TolaData from Kobo or Google Forms or Owner, we have a direct integration where our platform directly integrates via API with those tools to bring the data in. We also have the TolaData forms that we mentioned, so you can build forms with TolaData. So of course that's real-time import into the system because it's with the TolaData forms themselves. But even any other kind of digital tool, you can still import that via CSV file into TolaData. So we're really thinking about no matter where your data is, even if it's in Excel, you can always bring it all into TolaData and then bring all your data together. Then within TolaData, you can do your management and your tracking. And I'm going to get into a demo and show you a little bit more about how we do that. And you can also do your visualization and reporting using the reporting and dashboard features in TolaData. So it's kind of really thinking about that whole cycle of where your data is going to flow. If you did want to do BI analysis and some more complex calculations and analysis, you can also export all your data from TolaData in configurable exports and take it into Tableau or Power BI. So this is an example of how you might map out your data cycle and think about the tools you're going to use and how they're all going to fit together. I'm going to jump back into a slideshow now, just so that I can get to the next slide, which is now we're really going to look into TolaData to give you an example of a solution and how it can work. And of course, this is the one we're most familiar with, so it's the best one for us to show you. So the TolaData Toolbox has a lot of different features to it. And we've got the aspect of collecting your data, whether you're collecting it with TolaData or with other tools and bringing that data together, managing your data, importing it from all these different sources, organizing it and storing it, tracking your project with results frameworks, indicator plans, monitoring your actual results versus your targets. And I'm going to show you how we do that in TolaData in a minute. Visualizing and sharing your results. So putting your results into dashboards, creating graphs and charts, sharing those with your stakeholders, your beneficiaries, other members of staff, your management. And also something else we're going to look at today, which is looking at your impact. So how do you maybe look at your results across multiple projects? How can you see how your results aggregate together? So you start to see the bigger picture of what you're achieving using your results. So let's dive in and have a look at TolaData in action. I'm going to just switch my screen now and just move this across so that I can open up TolaData. So here you can see that I am logged into TolaData, and this is how it looks for an organization. So this would be an organization's account of TolaData. And what we've landed on is our project list. So here we have a list of all our projects. Now, the great thing with TolaData is that even though they're called projects, you can structure these in a hierarchy. So you can have projects that feed into higher programs, that feed into big global analyses and strategic programmatic objectives. So you can see already that for my organization, we've grouped our projects, whether they're project level, national level, regional level, global level, and these groups are customizable. So you might also group your projects by department or by other factors. But in this particular example, we've used this. I can filter my project list. So let's just say, show me all my regional level projects. So I can also filter and just see only the projects that are actually at a regional level. Or I could also filter by country. So that's also something else that I can do at this level. If I'm looking at a lot of different projects, I could maybe say, only show me the projects that are in Afghanistan. And now I can see I have 2 projects in Afghanistan. One is a regional project, perhaps it's multiple countries, also a global level project, perhaps a global program that happens to also be implemented in Afghanistan. So from that project list, I've then got access to all the other aspects of TolaData, which you can see down the left-hand navigation. So I can jump into the details of a project. So I can click on the name of a project and go into the details section. Here you can see I've got a lot more information about my particular project, the start and end date. I can put in a unique ID code. I can see the budget. And across the top here, I've got further details I can look at. So I can see the project sites where we're implementing this project. So we've got 3 sites here in Afghanistan where this project has been implemented. And you can see I can zoom in and zoom out to see those sites. I also can have a list of all the stakeholders that we're working with, so we can keep track of who's involved in the project. I can link documents that are relevant. So we link to cloud file servers. So I can use this also to really get access to the key documents that are related to this particular project and have them all linked in one place. You can start to see how this becomes a real hub of knowledge management around this project. And lastly, I also at this level can also set up my team for the project. And so, you know, this is how we manage permissions in TolaData. So anyone who's added to the team of a project has access to the different data and other elements of that project. And when you're working with many different partners, and this is something we're very passionate about in TolaData, how can you collaborate with other organizations? How can you collaborate with your implementing partners? And you can do this in this way. You could have many different projects, and perhaps you've got one partner working on one project with you. You can give them access to TolaData, make them part of the team of that particular project. They won't see any of your other projects. They'll just see their own project here in TolaData, and you can collaborate together on that project and on the data. And you can also here set levels of access. You can also give people access as an admin, data entry only, or just view only access to the project. So there's a lot of levels of how you can manage how you're collaborating with other people on your project. But now I've got this project. So I've got this humanitarian health project. I want to dive in and actually go into some more detail. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump to this indicator section here. So this is the section I want to focus on today because we're really talking about monitoring and evaluation. And you can see I've gone into the indicator section. So I'm inside my project, and I can see here I've got 3 parts to this section. So I've got an indicator plan, I've got my results framework, and I've also got a bit about exports. And I'm going to get to all of these sections. But first I want to actually jump to the results framework, because this is the visualization of my logic model. This is the visualization of my log frame. You can see here in this results framework, I've got my outputs at the bottom, the activities or outputs that I'm doing, how they feed up to the outcomes that we are aiming for, to the objectives of my project, to the overall goal of my project. And to give you a bit of a feel for how TolaData works, because it's a very modular system, so you can actually very easily build a results framework. I can click here, I can add something. There's no requirements on what you call something. I can give it a description, I can choose a color, and I can click submit. You can see I've built it out here. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with building diagrams, perhaps in Excel or in PowerPoint or other tools. And TolaData is exactly the same. It's completely flexible. You can have as many levels as you want. I call that objective 2. And I'll give it a different color, submit. Now I can build out underneath it. I could also move that objective if I wanted to edit it. I can say, actually, instead of result 1, put that objective underneath my goal. Click submit, and you can see now it's sitting there under my goal. So it's really a tool that can help you design your project and help you design how all of that looks and what's that logic of how your project's going to achieve its results. This results framework is related to my indicator plan, of course, because you've got your results elements here. You can see that's that goal that was at the top, the objectives and outcomes. If I go down to the bottom here, I can actually see those 2 I just added, that result and that objective. And I could even drag and drop this to reorganize it. So I can really get the layout of my indicator plan the way I want. And then under all of those results framework elements, I'm organizing my indicators, and these are my indicators here. So as a manager, it's very quick. If I'm like, I want to know how output 1.1 is going, I can quickly jump to this section, see my indicators here, and see my latest results over here. So it's really trying to make it very easy for people to keep track of their projects. I want to show you how we add an indicator in TolaData so you get a feel for how the interface works. To do that, I just click on this button here, add a new indicator. Perhaps I want to say, I want to keep track of the number of webinars I did for training for this particular project. So I'm going to put my indicator name in there, and I choose the format. What am I doing? Am I counting things? Is it a percentage, or is it maybe only qualitative information I'm collecting? But in this case, it's numeric. I'm counting the number of webinars. I say what I'm trying to do. Am I trying to increase or decrease towards a target? Now, in this case, I'm trying to increase. I want to do more webinars. But an example of a decreasing indicator would perhaps be, for example, maternal mortality rates. We're trying to decrease the maternal mortality rates. We would choose decreasing here. I'll leave it as increasing. Put in a target if I have it. Maybe I say I want to do 50 webinars during the life of this project. I can enter a baseline if that's relevant and click save. And there you can see that indicator has appeared up the top. And just like before, I can actually drag and drop that. I can move that around. Let's say that that's related here to this objective. So very easy to set things up here. And now I'm actually going to want to add some more information to my indicator, because there's lots more things in your log frame, of course, that you want to add. And I can click on the name of that indicator and open it up. And now you can see I've got more information. I'm inside this webinar indicator. So firstly, I've got some details. I can add a number. And of course, we all know that that's really helpful. A lot of times, if you have a lot of indicators, it's helpful to have a reference of a number. I can also put the data collection frequency. Perhaps we're going to collect monthly. I could mark it as a KPI if I want. I'll just tick this so you'll see what happens. I can add some other notes and descriptions. A lot of our clients like to use this to put in information about their assumptions, how they want the data collected, really anything that you're going to want to communicate to your project team around this particular indicator. The second tab that we have here is a really great one as well for your setup, which is around the targets and disaggregations that you might have. So firstly, at the top here, I've got my life of program targets. So there's that 50 that I entered. I can edit it if I need to. I can also edit the baseline and add a baseline date if that's relevant. I can add the unit of measure. In this case, the unit of measure is webinars. That's what we're counting. But we can also add periodic targets. Now, we were mentioning, you know, the really helpful thing about M&E is being able to see that you're on track during the life of the project. You know, if I'm counting the number of webinars, it's not very helpful if I get to the end of the project and I see that I only delivered 20 webinars because it's too late to do any more. What I need to see is that maybe a quarter of the way through, I could see that maybe I have only delivered 5 webinars, I'm not on track. And so to do that, it's useful to have periodic targets or milestones. And I'm going to add some periodic targets to this. You can set up custom periodic targets if perhaps you have custom periods for particular donors, or you can just use standard ones. I'm going to put in some semi-annual targets. So I'm going to choose semi-annual, and then I'm going to choose my reporting period. So I'm going to say halfway through this year, I want to have delivered 20 webinars. And by the end of 2022, by the second semi-annual period, I want to have delivered another 20. And perhaps this also goes into 2023. And by the middle of 2023, I want to have delivered my final 10. And if I click save, great. Now I can see, as well as my overall target of 50, I've got these periodic targets here. And lastly, I can also add disaggregation types. And TolaData allows you to create custom disaggregations that you can use, and then you attach them to indicators, because of course, we all know disaggregations are really important. We've got a lot of different disaggregations that we've already created here. And I might just add, perhaps I want to keep track of the community type, the community who I delivered those webinars for, and I can have a look at the values of this community type, whether it was for a city, village, town, or unclassified. I can also add another one in here. Let's also put the, maybe let's put country. So I could also say, perhaps I want to also keep track of the country that came to the webinar or where I delivered that webinar for. So that's everything now. Now I've set up that indicator. I'm just going to close this and just show you again back to my page. There's that indicator there. I can see it's a KPI. I'm going to collect data monthly. I've got a target of 50, but so far there's no data collected. So now I'm ready to start reporting results. This is the exciting bit, right? Where we actually get to start putting in the results of what we've achieved. If I open that indicator again, I'm going to go to this collected data tab. This is where the magic happens. This is where I get to report the results. During the life of a project, this is the place that people are coming to the most. And there's 2 ways that we can report results. And I'm going to show you the first way. And that is, if I click Add New Collected Data, what we call manual entry. Maybe I just want to come in. I don't have digital data necessarily to support this, or perhaps it's very just a short Excel spreadsheet I have, and I just want to report. I might just say I did 3 webinars, and then I put the date collected. Very important that I always specify when did those webinars happen, and maybe I'll say they were in the month of January. I'm going to put the end of January there. I'm going to put an identifier, and maybe I'll say those were 3 webinars. I'm going to put a little tag there. They were the intro to M&E, so I always remember what webinars they were. I can link documents. Perhaps I've got some documents that are evidence. Maybe I wanted to link the video of the webinars, or perhaps the LinkedIn invite, just so I've got some evidence later if I need to prove to someone that those webinars really happened. I can add some notes. These were our first webinar series. I can add images if I want, can put in some other information, and I can also add disaggregation data. So let's just say I'm going to add a disaggregation of the community type. I might say that one of those was delivered for people living in a city and 2 for people living in a town, let's just say. Although of course with webinars, we could reach anyone, but there I click save and I've got my first result. I can see I've now achieved 3 out of 50. There's my result. I can see it was added by me the day that I entered that result. I can open it up and see all the details of it at any time. And that's great. Now I've got that first result. The other thing that I can also do is now I've started collecting results, I can also enter a status. And I might say, you know, we've got our first result. We've done 3 webinars in the first month of the year. We're on track to achieve our results of 50 webinars delivered through the life of this project. The other thing that I have here is a results summary. I'm just going to show you how this looks at the moment, and then I'm going to show you in another one. So I'm going to, firstly, I can give an analysis of my results by time. So I can see everything's in one period at the moment. So I've achieved this, but I can also, we set some periodic targets. I can see my progress so far against those periodic targets. Remember, we were saying it's so important to keep track of that. So we have a target to achieve 20 in the first half of this year. And now I can see I've already achieved 3 against that target. So I'm starting to get that analysis of my results, which is really great. What I actually want to do is just jump down. So I've got all these indicators here. Here you can see, great, I'm on track. I've achieved 3 out of 50. But show you can see that result summary of another indicator. I'm going to go into this indicator where we were training people to receive hygiene promotion. Now, if I go to the collected data for this particular indicator, you can see I've got a lot of results. Lots of people have reported results for this indicator. We're really doing so well. We're mostly achieved. And if I go to the results summary of this particular indicator, I can analyze those results. I might say, show me my results quarterly. And look at that. I can see all those results that have been reported. I can see them broken down by quarter and a summary of them here. I can also change that and say, show me my results annually. Now I can see the results broken down by year, which is fantastic. I can see my progress against my milestones. So we had some periodic targets. We had set annual milestones for this particular project. So I can see how we've progressed. We've also got some semi-annual milestones that we can see our results against. And lastly, here I can see a summary of our disaggregated results. So the disaggregations that have been used on this particular indicator, I can see of that, what we've achieved so far, that 4,468 that we've trained so far. I can see them disaggregated by age, by region, by gender, anything else that I've used on my indicator. So it's really now, you can start to see how I'm getting really helpful summaries. And especially if I've got a lot of people reporting results, maybe from different offices, different partners. As a manager, I'm coming in and I can see everything here. We're really starting to see how this digital data is just giving us so much back because we're using the tools to keep a summary of it. And it also means that perhaps I'm working in the field and I'm managing my project here. If I have another manager or a stakeholder who's perhaps sitting in another country, they can also log in and they can see these latest results and see how everything's going without having to write to me. I don't need to send them an email. They just automatically can see everything right here. And I'm going to stop sharing for a moment because I'm actually going to hand over now. I'm going to hand back to Malta, who's going to go in even further and talk about how we can make the most of this data that we're collecting and putting into the tool.
Thanks a lot, Joe. So I will take over, and in the next step, we'll have a look at how TolaData integrates with other data collection tools. So do you remember that in the previous part of our session today, we had a look at how data could be collected in the field using CoBot Toolbox in connection with CoBot Collect. And we all remember that we synchronized the data from my phone onto the CoBot Toolbox server. So now imagine that we've carried out such a data collection exercise. We have our survey data. Now we want to link it to our indicators. So as Joe has said, there is the opportunity in TolaData to add data towards an indicator manually. What she just showed to you on the screen, where you click on add and you collect the data and you enter a value. However, there's also the opportunity to directly link indicators to raw data tables that stem from a different source. So this is where our data table feature and the pull from data table feature come into play. So as the first step, I will go to the data table section. Each project within TolaData has its own data table section, and there is various options of getting raw data tables into the system. So I can import data from Google Sheets or OneDrive for Business. I can import CSV files. Nearly all data collection tools are able to export a CSV file. So our system is able to read those and import that into the system. We also have a direct API connection with ONA, which is another ODK-based data collection tool that we're seeing a lot. But for today's exercise, we want to use CoBot Toolbox. So a CoBot Toolbox has an API. And if you have a CoBot Toolbox account, what you get from CoBot Toolbox is an API authentication token. And if you use the import from CoBot Toolbox feature of TolaData for the very first time, you're able to, you're asked for that authentication token, which you provide, and then you can directly retrieve data from CoBot Toolbox and then import it into TolaData. So this authentication is something which I've already done. Now, that is why when I click on import from CoBot Toolbox, I can already select the forms. And you will remember that these were the names of the forms which I had in my CoBot Toolbox account. So I'm just going to click on Workshop Survey. That is the survey that we collected data for on my phone. I can save it, and then you see that this data now appears here in the data table section. And if I click on it, I can see that this data has been imported onto the TolaData server. So you may remember that on my phone, I made this entry for Sarah. So this data is now stored on the TolaData server, which means that now I can link it to an indicator. So how does this work? For this to work, I'll go back to the indicator section. And here I had created an indicator that captures the kind of information that we wanted to keep track of for our results. So we have an indicator which is called the percentage of workshop participants who are satisfied with the workshop. So I can click on that. And if I go to collect the data, you see that in the past I already collected a few data items. And now I maybe want to update this indicator with the latest results from CoBot Toolbox. So I will click on Add New Collected Data. I'll click on Pull from Data Table, so not the manual entry. So if I click on Pull from Data Entry, data table, you will see that the field collected value is grayed out. It is gray out. I can't click on that because this is a value that the system is going to calculate based on the raw data table, which I just imported. So for this to work, in the first step, I select the data table that I want to work with. That is the workshop survey, and maybe we can just open that to have a look. So that's the data table that I just imported a few seconds ago from the CoBot Toolbox server. I click on the data table, and now the system asks me what kind of column I want to calculate with. So in this case, we could, for example, calculate the average age, but I think for this indicator, what we want to do is we want to calculate how many of the participants reported that they were satisfied with the workshop. So I will work with the data table column, which is called workshop satisfaction, the rating. And I'll ask the system to perform a ratio calculation. And I want to calculate how many of the participants reported that they were satisfied. So what this does basically, it goes to this column here and says, okay, give me the ratio of the satisfied submissions compared to the overall number of submissions. So that's 2 divided by 3. And that gives us the 66.67%. If I want to, could also be adding some notes, like any context there is, or any learning that has been made. So I can always also provide qualitative data to each quantitative entry which I'm making. So I can just click on save here, and you see the data is saved. The indicator value is updated, which then is also, of course, reflected in the results summary in all other parts of the application. So this is how we would link a data collection tool such as CoBot Toolbox to the indicators which you find in TolaData. And it's these indicators that will be used for reporting. And in a few minutes, Joe is going to talk about how this reporting works. But before we do that, there's one really nice aspect of such data collection, or of such monitoring evaluation tools, which we want to share with you. And this has to do with data aggregation and analysis across various projects. So this is specifically interesting for those organizations or institutions that have a range of different projects. And some of them may even have so-called standard indicators. So the idea of standard indicators integration is that each project may have its own specific indicators that are only specific to this very project, but there are also many cases that we see with a lot of NGOs that we are working with. They do have some indicators which they track across a wide range of projects. So they are doing that so that they can get a feeling for the overall impact of several projects. For example, what is the impact of the projects in a certain region? What's the impact of that project in a certain country? What's the impact across the world, like on a global level? So that really allows organizations to get an idea of overall impact, and we'll show you an example of how that works. And I will skip back to now our example here. So let's imagine we have a setup which it's an example that we have created. It's an environmental project taking place in Nigeria, Ghana, and Brazil. So 3 different countries, and within Nigeria, it's taking place in 2 regions. And here you see a project in Yobe in Nigeria. So we see some indicators. We may see some very specific indicators, but there's also one indicator that actually is marked as KPI. It's an indicator that is tracked across different projects, and that's an indicator which tracks the number of hectares planted by this very project or by this initiative. So we know that in Yobe we've planted around 400 hectares, and now we may be interested. Okay, how many hectares did we plant in total in Nigeria? So what an organization can do is, in TolaData, they can set up a country level based of analysis. And here you see the very same indicator reappearing. And you see here that for the first time, this symbol is a bit different. It says contributing indicators, and I'm going to click on it, and this already gives you an idea of how that feature works, because this is an indicator. This is an aggregated indicator, and that means that it's an indicator, the value of which is kind of determined by other indicators feeding into that indicator. So for this indicator on the country level Nigeria, this indicator's value is fed by 2 indicators, namely from the Gombe project and the Yobe project. So these 2 indicators, 6,000 and 400, they make up the total of the hectares planted in all of Nigeria, which is 6,441 by this initiative. And this idea, of course, can be implemented even to higher levels. So if we want to know, okay, we've got projects in Nigeria and we've got projects in Ghana, what is the overall impact of these projects that we're having in all of West Africa? So you remember that we had 2 countries, we had Ghana and Nigeria, and now I can keep on aggregating even to higher levels. So in my West Africa level, I may be interested in, okay, what's the total amount of hectares planted in West Africa? So I'm taking the data from Nigeria and from Ghana to put it to the higher level. And that logic, of course, can implement it across as many levels if you want to. So if I want to have a look at the overall impact at the international level, there I'm aggregating data from all of West Africa and all of South America. So the beauty of that is that you get to see at the different levels the impact of your organization, and B, it's all linked to each other. So when Joe previously said that one advantage of digital data collection and analysis is that many steps are automated, this is one example for that. So as soon as you update a value, really at the lowest level, in this case we said the project level, if you update a value there, this automatically triggers an update of these indicators at the higher levels. So it's not that you manually have to update the indicator at the global level. It's all triggering upwards from the project level to the country level, to the region level, to the global level. And this really allows a nice way of getting an idea of the overall impact. This being said, as soon as we talk about aggregation, there's also some interesting sub aspects to keep in mind, and those have to do with weighting, relative weighting, and with adjustment factors. So within TolaData, we've added various options to cover for that. We have various aggregation formulas that you can use to create your aggregated indicators. But what we've also implemented in our software is that you as a user are able to provide weightings, relative weightings, and adjustment factors. So a classical example of applying relative weighting is if you have two different population sizes. So in our example here, when we talk about hectares, it may not make as much sense mathematically, but if we have a classic example is if you have an indicator such as a percentage of participants who rated the project positively. If you have two different target population sizes, in your final calculation, your aggregation, you may want to weight between those two different projects. So for some reason, we say that the West Africa project should have a higher percentage value than the South America region. We could apply different weightings here, like 60% and 40% only, compared to the classic average, which would be 50-50 in this example. Likewise, if we've made the experience that we want to adjust for certain things such as over-reporting, under-reporting, or double counting, we could add an adjustment factor here. So if we've made traditionally the experience that that there is a 5% under-reporting in the West African data, so we say, okay, if we get the data that 100 hectares have been planted, experience shows that actually 105 hectares have been planted. We can adjust for that by boosting that value by 5%. If we've made the experience that it's rather over-reported, so that in fact, when 100 hectares have been reported, actually it's rather 95, we could also apply a -5% adjustment factor. And you see that it's always going to update the calculation formula down here. And I can save that, and those settings will be applied towards my indicators. So this was just an example of how this could be used. We actually see that in a wide range of contexts. It doesn't always have to be like this project, a regional, national, global level. We also see that happening across organizations who work on different topics. So let's say they work in education and in microfinance and in WASH projects, and maybe they have some indicators which they track across all three topic areas. Then they could say, okay, what's my total number of people reached in the WASH part, in the education part, in the microfinance part, and then bring that all together at the higher level. So these are just a few application cases of such a feature. So before we go into how such data can be then taken further for reporting, just some really basic ideas regarding data analysis. So some of it already follows from some parts that we've mentioned previously. So one important aspect is to be aware of the data dimensions before doing the data collection, because obviously you can only analyze the data that you've previously collected. So defining disaggregations, milestones, these are all important elements, and know what you want to analyze and why you want to do that. If you work across multiple projects, it could help to have some standard indicators which you track across various projects so that you can do a clean data aggregation. And again, it makes sense to be aware of the toolkit that you want to apply in your M&E process. So with that, I hand back to Joe, who's going to talk about reporting features in the M&E process.
Thank you so much, Malta. And I'm just going to share my screen again. And before I get started on looking at reporting, something I wanted to reflect is you've seen Malta and I talk through all these steps, and maybe you're thinking, God, that was a lot there. And the one great thing about digital solutions is you set all of that up at the start of your project. And as Malta was saying, once you've got it set up, you've set up all your indicators, all the different projects and the aggregation projects and the overarching programs, then you get on with the work and you just put the results in and they're all going to flow up and everything's going to update automatically. And that's really an amazing benefit of digital solutions, is just being able to let the tech do some of that work for you so that you can get on with focusing on what's happening on the ground and looking at your results and monitoring what's happening without having to do all of the entry and the calculations manually every single time. And so that leads us to the next bit, which is you've got all these results, everything's flowing up, everything's updating, and you want to share what you've achieved. You want to tell the world, whether you have to report to your management or to your donors, or perhaps you just want to share it with stakeholders and beneficiaries. Maybe you're doing advocacy to the local government. You want to demonstrate the impact you've achieved. So how are the ways that you can do this? How can you use this digital data to achieve this? I'm going to go back into TolaData now. So you've been focusing here in this indicator section. This is where you're doing your day-to-day management. But I want to actually jump now to our dashboard section. And this is where often people get really excited because they're like, oh, great. Now, how can I take everything that we've done and tell everyone about it? Because it's really exciting to share that impact and to share those achievements. And in TolaData, we have configurable dashboards. That means that when you add a dashboard, so let's create a new dashboard and let's call it the Strategia dashboard. And when I create a new dashboard, the first thing I have is actually just a blank page. And that's because I'm going to decide what I want to put on this dashboard and what information I want to share. And the way that I do that is I add what we call widgets. So let's add our first widget here. I'm going to add a widget, and I've got a few different types, but let's first put some text and images. So maybe I want to call this my latest results. Here is what I have achieved. Just to give you some examples, I can also do some formatting on this, and maybe I also want to put a picture of my project. So let's just put an image in here. So I've written some narrative, I've explained what's happened. If I click save, there's my first widget. I can actually have full control to scale this and move it around how I want it to look. So I've already started my dashboard. I've put some information on it. I've added some images. But of course, the really exciting thing is those project results, those indicators. How can I put those on my dashboard? And if I come back to adding a widget, you can see the next option I have is project indicators. Now, when I move to indicators, my options change. So firstly, I can choose what kind of chart I want to create. So let's just do actuals versus target. I just want to say how much I've achieved so far against my target. Then I choose the project. So let's go back to this humanitarian health project that we've been looking at. And then I choose which indicators I want to include in my chart. So if I open this up, let's maybe say, I want to include the number of people who attended the workshops, number of people trained. Let's see what else we have. Maybe the number of people who received hand washing training. So I'm going to choose those 3 indicators. I have some other options. I could choose not to display target values. So maybe I only want to display my actuals, but I'm going to display my targets in this case. I can also create an indicator key, and I'm going to select this because you'll see in a moment how that's helpful. And I can, if I want, filter by date range. This is really great if you're creating a dashboard. Maybe you want to do like a Q1 report, and then you would say only include results from the 1st of January to the end of March, for example, and then it would only be your results in Q1. But I'm actually going to just use all my results for now. I can add my own title to this particular widget if I want, but I'm going to leave it blank so you just see what happens when I don't add my own title. And I'm going to click save. And there we go. I've got, because I didn't choose a title, by default, it's just said, what is the type of chart this is, which is also helpful. Which project are we looking at? The date range, and you remember I didn't filter, so it's all the data is shown here. And then I can see my 3 indicators I selected. I can see the overall target and what's been achieved to date. And I can see that for the 3 indicators. And because I selected the indicator key, each indicator is marked by a letter. When I come down further, I can see the full name of the indicator underneath that particular bar chart relates to. I can also move these around. So I can actually move this to here, and you can see now this is underneath. I can stretch this out. I can do all kinds of things to get the layout of this dashboard just the way that I want it. The other great thing about this dashboard is that these are live results. So coming back to that idea of you set things up once, and then you just have to worry about plugging in your results at the project level and everything flows up. Once I've created this dashboard, these results will always update automatically by the data that's been input at the indicator level. So I don't have to come back and update this dashboard again. It's always going to be the latest results. I'm going to just jump to here. I want to show you a dashboard that I've set up previously that's got a lot of different charts in it. So here you can see a dashboard. I've got here I've got a target versus actuals, like the one I just set up. Below it, I actually have a disaggregated bar chart. So in this case, I can see those same indicators, but I can see them broken down by gender because we collected that particular information on these 4 indicators. If I go further down, you can see there's a range of other charts. I can here I can see my data, my disaggregation data in a pie chart. I can see percentage achieved. So this is great for keeping track. How close are we to 100% achieved on all of our indicators? And further down, I have some time-based results. I can see for this indicator, the progress over time. I can see my exact results over time of a particular indicator, or even collected results over time. Those are just some examples of some of the different data that you can collect. And I'm going to just show you another dashboard just so you can let your imagination run wild. Here's a different dashboard I've created. I've got a bit more, done it a bit differently. I've structured it. I've got sections on this dashboard for the particular information. I've put some notes and information. You can see I've got the different information that I want to share. So this is great. Now I've got my dashboard. With dashboards, of course, what you want to think about is how do I share it? When you first create it, you're the only person that can see it, but now I want other people to see my dashboard. And I can do that by clicking share. I can choose other users. So I could say, oh, I want to share this with a couple of people in my organization. I could even share it with a whole project team. I could share it with a whole project team. So maybe I'll just say, share it with everyone, or even with all of the users from my organization of TolaData. But the great thing about this dashboard is that I can also share it externally. I can share it with people who don't use TolaData. And I can do that using this link. And if I click copy on this link, I can email this link to anyone that I want. So you can see it's what we call a unique unguessable URL. I could email this link to my donors, to my stakeholders, to my managers. And you can see they don't need to have access. They can't see any other part of TolaData. They can just see that dashboard with the information you want to share with them and the latest results. This is a really great way to create reports that you can share. And the great thing with these reports is that instead of you having to come back and send them a new report every month, they can just come in and they're going to see the latest results because this data is updating in real time based on the data behind it in TolaData. So that's a really great way that you can share your results further with other people, with beneficiaries. You can also embed this into your websites. We have some clients who create a dashboard that they put onto their public-facing website that they can say, these are our latest results that we want to share with you about what we're achieving, which is really a great way for you to get information out and share your impact and also be transparent about what you're achieving with the money that you've received for your work. The other thing that you might want to think about is perhaps doing further analysis or maybe extracting your data. And with TolaData, we have a lot of different ways that we can export the data. So if I come back to this indicator section where we were before, perhaps I just want to export this data. Maybe I want to put it into an Excel file, or perhaps I want to use it in a BI tool like Tableau and do some more analysis. And with TolaData, all of your data is available to you to export. And you can see I've got a lot of different exports here. I can get an indicator list. So let's just download that. We used to actually even call this our log frame report, because it would export your data ready for you to use. Here you can see I've got each of my indicators. If I just open that up, there's the indicator name. I can see the target. I can see the latest results. I can see my percentage achieved. Straight away, I've got all of my results ready. I can put that straight into an Excel report or use it in another tool. I can also do configurable exports, and this is really great if you want to export a big data set and maybe import it into Tableau and do a whole lot of analysis. You can export your data and you can decide, how you want to export it. Do I want to include my periodic achievements? Do I want to include all the disaggregation data? There's a lot of different ways that you can export your data, and throughout TolaData, we've made it very easy for you to get that data out again so that you can go and use it in other places. We want to make sure that TolaData sits as a central hub that you can feed data in from lots of tools, and you can also get your data out. We want to make that data ready for you to use in all the ways that it can be helpful for you. And that's really important to us in how people use the tool. The other thing, if I just come back here, so we've got all this data, you're using TolaData, you've stored it all. I want to talk a little bit about thinking about your future self. And there's obviously a lot of things you could think about your future self, but really thinking about your future self in relation to your projects and your data. And the first thing I wanted to just talk about is about end-line and final reports. And I know from my time at Save the Children, sometimes your final reports aren't due for 3 or 4 months after a project finishes. And as we all know, project teams have finished, they've moved on to work on other projects, maybe some of the staff have left, and then perhaps there's even just one person who's left with that job of writing the final report. Maybe it's the project manager working with a grant manager, and you have to prepare this final report. It's so important that you have access to all of the data. And that's where digital tools can really help. Because if your data is stuck on the laptop of the project team who've now left or moved on, or perhaps it's stored in paper files out in field offices, writing that final report can be really hard. But using a tool like TolaData, all your data is readily available. You just need to log in. You can see everything that everyone reported, all of your data in one place, ready to do that report. The other thing that you really want to be thinking about is data audits. We all know that donor audits, they can come years after a project is finished. And when a donor audit comes, and they do things now that they actually call data audits, they're going to say to you, okay, you told us you trained 1,000 teachers. Show us the evidence of all of those teachers that you trained. And then you need to be able to dig back. You need to show attendee lists. You need to show perhaps all of the agenda and the documentation from the trainings that you did. You need to be able to prove that you actually did train 1,000 teachers. And that's where having that traceability all sitting in a tool like TolaData, you've got all of the links to your documents, you've got all of the proof of where the data was collected, the full traceability all the way back down to the ground can be all available for you right away in TolaData. So that's really helpful. And definitely when you think about wanting to have that data available in 6 years or 7 years or even 10 years with some donors, then it's great that you can just have it all stored here and everyone in your organization knows where it is and they know they can find it, even if maybe they weren't around 7 years ago when that project happened. So really digital data makes that easy, and it's just something so important for us, really making sure that that data is available. Thinking about that data storage though is something that Malte and I both touched on, and we want to just put that reminder in here again, is that of course when you're storing all that data, you have to think about the rules for the data that you store. So you have to comply with your local regulations. If you're governed by any of the European rules, then you have to be thinking about GDPR. And if it was a donor funded project, then you need to check the contract of that donor, whether it's USAID or GIZ, the EU, UK Aid, or any of the other donors, and make sure that you're complying with their retention requirements. If they say you have to retain the data for 5 years or for 7 years or for 10 years. So there's a lot of different pieces that you have to think about in your data storage. So I always want to remind you, and that's again where this digital data collection can really just help you so much, because it makes it very easy for you to know that you are going to be able to comply with those regulations and have your data stored and readily available. And we've got some top tips for you for that data retention. So the first one is store it centrally. And that's this, for example, bringing all your data into TolaData, then it's stored in the cloud. It's stored in one place, you know, it's always accessible. It means that centrally you can manage the security, which is really important these days. So in the case of TolaData, we store all our data on servers by a company called Norris Network here in Germany. They have really the latest tech in data protection and firewalls and data security. So we really can have full confidence that all of our data is really safe. Having it stored centrally also improves the reliability and the speed that you can access the data, and it reduces costs. When you store it all in one place, it's much cheaper than maybe storing on lots of different servers and places around the world. Also, with your data retention, you're going to want to make sure you do backups. And that, again, is where using tools like TolaData can really help you, because we do backups. We're doing those backups on behalf of our clients. So you want to make sure you know where your data has been backed up. Where is that stored? How often has it been backed up? And who's in charge of that? The other thing with data retention is making sure you have a policy. So all your organizations should have a policy that sets out, why do you retain that information? Who's going to have access? What's the scope of the data that's going to be kept, and how long it's going to be stored, and how and when it will be deleted. All of these things are just, they've become such big issues for us. And I know that, you know, we think about it, of course, these days with the data that we put into other digital tools that we use in our lives, we think about who's keeping that data and how are they storing it. And equally, we have to comply with those rules when we think about storing this data that actually belongs to our beneficiaries. We've collected their data. How are we storing it? What are our policies, and how can we make that available to all of our community and our stakeholders? And then lastly, just that reminder to know the rules. Make sure you've checked the legislation. Make sure that your data retention policy is compliant with all of those rules, and how you need to keep the data, what data you can keep, and how you should think about when you should be deleting it, and so forth. And that brings us to the very exciting place of questions and discussions. And we're really excited to find out what else you would like to share about your experiences of using digital tools, any questions that you have about digital tools. And yeah, just really open the floor to speak a little bit more. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to put my video on so that I can see you all. And maybe, John, you can help us in
Thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. I would like to ask my colleague Beatrice to moderate the session for question and answer. I'm sure there are lots of questions. If you have a question, please raise your hand, and Joe and Marta will answer your questions. Beatrice, please. Let's start with Charles. Charles Ohikwai. Unmute Charles, please. I can see the first hand. Then there's Moses and Saka and Ivan.
Yeah.
Already.
Thank you so much. I mean, this is interesting, and I mean, I've been an advocate of less paper, more of technology in terms of data management, and I think this is a very good one, and I mean, the right step to go. And I'm so much fascinated with the demonstration so far. But my question is, I mean, coming about in terms of data security, especially for projects, maybe for programs, I wanted to ask, can this system, is it possible that instead of having the data repository at your own server, can I have it stored in my own server? Maybe I have a server that I want the data to go in, instead of having the data on your own server. Is that something that is possible, or it must be on your own server? Over. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that question. I'm actually going to share my screen again so that you've got just our website on it, because we have our data protection policy and all of our data policy and everything on our website. And I really encourage you to go and look at those. So at the moment, we don't offer local hosting, and it's for a number of reasons. And one of them is that the best way that we can guarantee your data security is using what we know is the best data security, like really cutting edge data security and data retention and data protection practices that are done by this company, Norris Network, who host our data for us. And it also means that all the backups are there, and it allows us to ensure that the platform is always working at its optimum, so we can do all of the bug fixes for you and everything like that. So we really, we don't actually have local storage, and we're really happy to speak with people about their requirements around data protection and data security, so that our policy has actually been approved by GIZ, by the German government. We had to comply with all of their data protection and data security requirements. So we really have extensive documentation on all of our processes and policies. And we do that because we've consulted with experts. We want to make sure that everybody's data is really protected and secure at the highest level possible in how the world is. And Malta, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I think you made already all the most relevant points. Thank you.
Great.
Okay,
thanks.
Let's have Moses Okure. Moses Okure, you can ask your question.
Oh, thank you so much. Greetings to all participants. I want to thank the presenters. I just have a few things. One, you've talked a lot about data solutions, and your presentation is really very impressive. And I just have this following. One, is this TolaData accessible? Is it free? Is it licensed? And what is the cost for it? Because I see it is really a very friendly user tool. Then two, in terms of data analysis, can it also integrate other softwares that can handle both qualitative and quantitative data for analysis and reporting and any other functions in one piece as a software for this data solution? Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So firstly, to answer your question about TolaData. So you do have to pay for TolaData. As I said at the very beginning, we're a social tech company. So our entire mission is to serve the NGO sector and bring the best tech that we can. And so how we do that is, if you go to our website, you'll see our prices. We actually offer 50% off for non-profit organizations. So non-profit organizations can have the tool at half price. Already the prices are quite low, and we're really happy to discuss with that. Please get in touch with us and tell us about your needs and how your organization is set up, and we can work with you to find a way to give you TolaData and make the solution available. And if you go to our website, you can also start a free trial. We'd love you to go in and create an account, have a look around, have a play with the tool. You have a 30-day free trial that you can use on our platform, so you can see how TolaData can work for you. Or you can also book a demo with one of our team if you'd like to have a one-on-one chat and tell us about your specific requirements. So I think that was your first question, and your second question was about integration with other tools. So the integration for, let's start with quantitative data. So we can import data, any machine readable data. So that's digital data sets, whether it's Excel, it's a digital data collection tool like we've shown you with CoBot Toolbox. It's any of that quantitative data you can pull into TolaData. We don't integrate with qualitative tools as such, but what we do is we allow you to put qualitative data into TolaData. So you can link documents, you can add images, you can write text, you can keep track of how many case studies that you've done, so that you can have all of your indicators in one place. And we'd be really happy to go into more detail with you on that. If you want to book a demo with one of our team, you can tell us about the kinds of tools you're using and the data you're collecting, and we can show you how you would set that up in TolaData.
Let's have Saka Ibrahim. Saka, kindly ask your question. Saka Ibrahim.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much for this wonderful session. First of all, I would like to appreciate the presenters for a wonderful job, well explained, and the content of the discussions were very rich. Thanks for bringing this up. My question is, from the discussion, I can see there's a kind of link between CoBot Toolbox, TolaData, Tableau, and Power BI. Do you have, my first question is, do you have a course that link all these together? Starting from the use of CoBot Toolbox to TolaData, back to the Tableau or Power BI for data analysis? If yes, how can we assess that, especially to train a number of staff of an organization? That's the first question. The second question has to do with the TolaData itself. I can see is a complete package that is being managed from your own end. If somebody is subscribed to that and you develop a system for an organization, is it going to be for life, or is there any expiry date for any subscription if you are working with an organization? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your question, and I'm glad that you've enjoyed the presentation today. So let's start with your first question about courses. So at TolaData, we provide training on TolaData itself, and for all of our clients, they can access that training, and we can do training for you on our system. We can show you how to import data from CoBot Toolbox into TolaData. Malte gave you a sort of very brief introduction to that, and we also include that in our training if it's relevant for the organization. But actually, if you really want training on CoBot Toolbox, designing forms and all of the ins and outs of that particular product, we have a partner that we work with that does an amazing training on CoBot. So we can also help collaborate with them to organize that training for you on CoBot Toolbox, and then how that integrates into TolaData. So you're welcome to get in touch with us, and we can talk to you a bit more about those trainings that we offer on those tools. For Tableau and Power BI, we don't do training on that. We can show you how to export data so you could import it into those tools, but we don't provide training as such on those particular tools. And I don't know, John, if Strategia knows of someone, or if you provide training in those kind of digital tools at all.
Well, we can find out, and then we can relay the information. Not at the moment, but we'll find out. I'm sure we just have a partner out there.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, John. And then your second question was about the access of TolaData. So TolaData is offered as what's called a subscription as a service, as a SaaS model. And you might be starting to get familiar with this because a lot of products now are offered like this. This is how you get Microsoft. So you pay, like every month you pay a license fee, and TolaData is offered the same. You can either pay an annual subscription or a monthly subscription fee. And you have access to TolaData as long as you are paying your subscription fee. There's a few reasons why we do it by subscription, because that way we can always give you the latest product. So you're constantly getting new updates, enhancements. We're always building new features. We're just about to build more features for our dashboards, for example, and we'll be deploying those in the next few months. So by the subscription, you get access to all of those updates. It also means that you always have access to our user support. So we actually have live user support that you can access anytime. You can jump on the live web chat and say, hey, I've got a question, or if you need any help with the platform. So you always have access to the user support as well with that subscription. If you end your subscription, so say you get to the end, your project ends, or you want to close your subscription, we will continue to store the data for you for a number of years. We have a data retention policy of how long we will keep that data for you, unless you told us to delete it. So you could also at the end of your subscription say, we're going to export all of our data and then please delete it. We would also do that. Otherwise, we would store the data and it would be available. If you contacted us and said, please, we need to export it, we could also make that available to you. Or you could restart your subscription after a year and your data would all still be there for you, and you could start using the platform again. And I hope that answers your question.
Let's have Kibru Mamusha. Kibru Mamusha. Unmute yourself, please.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for this great webinar. I have enjoyed it from start to end, and it is very interesting and so productive. I've never seen such a tool serving the development community in such a manner. I have two questions because the tools, TolaData, is actually dependent on the availability of internet in any areas. And what if there is a poor internet connection or no internet connections, probably cut off somewhere in between? Will there be a kind of auto-save services within Tola, or will there be any kind of auto-sync to the cloud services so we cannot lose any data collected already?
Yeah.
My second question is also, by the very end of your presentation, you said TolaData is very good for auditing purposes because audit is coming years after the projects are ended. But at the same time, you are providing services with kind of with subscription, annual or monthly. When there is no, probably we have cut or we have terminated our subscriptions, but the auditor comes, and so our data probably still exists in your server, so we can pull it back with another new subscription, or how you are going about such a problem? Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Those are both really great questions. So let's talk about this offline online functionality first. So we actually at TolaData, we really looked at what's the best way to help working in the field where there's internet connectivity issues. And actually, I live in Berlin. In Berlin, we have a lot of trouble with internet. Ironically, Germany doesn't, actually struggles quite a bit with its internet connection sometimes. And the way that we look at it with TolaData, so firstly, the time that you really need to go offline and work offline is often data collection, right? Maybe you're out in the field, you're collecting, you're doing your surveys. And that's why we love CoBot Toolbox, because CoBot Toolbox is a great tool and it works offline. You work on the app, and then when you log on, all your data uploads. And we really encourage people to use CoBot for that purpose. With TolaData itself, it doesn't work offline, and there's actually a reason for that. So when we were first developing it, we did trial it as something that could work offline. But for something to work offline, when you open it up, it has to download the whole system and all of the data onto your computer so that if you go offline, you can keep working, which means you need to have a really strong internet connection. When you are online, your internet connection has to be really strong to download the system and all the data. And what we found when we worked with our initial clients that we were testing with is that they said, look, what's more important is that the platform works really well when our bandwidth is low. We have connection, but sometimes it's not that strong, and we want the platform to be fast, even when it's not that strong. And so instead of allowing it to go offline, we've made it so that it works well, even if your bandwidth is low. So even if you don't have the best connectivity. What happens is while you're working, everything's going into the cloud. It is saving as you're working. It's all being saved and happen. If you go offline, you're going to need to stop using it for a moment. But when you come online again, everything that you've done will be there and waiting for you. And it will work even if your bandwidth is a bit low, your connectivity is a bit shaky, you're going to be able to access the platform. So we've really tried to prioritize that for the piece where you're working on TolaData at your desk. And I hope that answers that question for you. The second one about the data availability. So there's different ways people use TolaData. Some people, their organization buys it and they're using a subscription, they're using it on lots of projects. So then of course, they've always got all their data that, even if the project's ended, they're doing another project. So they've got access to the system, they're still subscribed. So in those instances, they have all their data available. But we also have instances where people just use it for one specific project. And then as you say, the project finishes, maybe you close your subscription. At that moment, you can instruct us what you want us to do with your data. And if you said to us, please retain the data for 7 years, we can keep storing it. And then if you need it, you just contact us and we can let you extract that data. So we really, all of us have a background in NGOs. We know how it works. We know the complexity of donors reappearing out of the blue after 6 years and you think, oh, I have to get everything. And we want to support you in that. So we're really happy to work with you. It's not that you would have to start another subscription. If all you needed to do was extract the data, or maybe you'd say, look, I just want to do 1 month access again for a couple of users, and we're going to show that auditors where all the data is stored and extract everything. And we're happy to work with you and facilitate that. So you can work with us and tell us how you need us to store your data.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Let's have Ivan Opar. Ivan. Ivan, unmute yourself and ask your question, please. Meanwhile, we can go to Emmanuel Ogoye. Emmanuel, please ask your question. You raise your hand.
Okay, thank you, Beatrice. This is Emmanuel from Kenya. That was a nice presentation. And my inquiry was on the periodic targets. Now, how do you select or distinguish between the periodic, the standard and the customs? However, all the information that you gave were okay. It was so nice. So that's the part I didn't get clearly. Then maybe to get an inquiry at the end of the presentation, are we going to be issued with a kind of an online certificate? Yeah, those are the questions that I had.
Great, thank you so much. And that's a nice question about the custom periodic targets. So what we did with TolaData when we were setting up, wanting to put your reporting periods in, of course you've got, you know, often it's a standard reporting periods, like Q1 is January to March, Q2 is April to June, you know, a year is January to December. So we automatically set all of those up for everyone. We're like, okay, you're going to have the standard calendar reporting periods, but we know that some donors have funny years. USAID, I think, is it October to September, you know, and some of the donors don't work on that year. So then you want to actually make your year be September to October to September, or perhaps for some reason your project, you think of Q1 as starting in February, and so you want Q1 to be February, March, April. And so we allow you to create custom reporting periods, and you enter those yourself. So you can name them, you know, my USAID farming project reporting periods, and you can put in exactly the reporting periods that you need for your project. So that's making sure that your data, when you come to report, it's already grouped exactly as you need it. So you're not going to have to manually recalculate anything if your reporting periods are different to the standard calendar reporting periods. Your question about the certificate, I think John mentioned, because this is a webinar rather than a training, I don't think there's a specific certificate for this webinar. However, we will make the video available and some other materials available to you. And I think Strategia offers a lot of other actual courses and trainings that then there are certificates available for those. John, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
Yes, since this is a free webinar, we will not be issuing a certificate, but we'll access the video and the slides. And if you'd like to take a course, I think one of our colleagues will make a presentation towards the end in terms of the courses available. And we'll see also how we can partner with TolaData to offer training in digital solutions. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let's have Anastasia Lusatina. Anastasia.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'm Anastasia from Tanzania, and I would like to ask, thank you for the presentation and the knowledge shared today. It's really enriched and very nice for most of us. So I wanted to know if this Tola it's only for organization, or also individuals who needs such platform can have access to it? That's one. But the second one, it was about CoBot Toolbox. I don't think it was the main agenda for today's webinar, but I wanted to know how to synchronize the app in your computer with the phone. How do you get the data to be analyzed in your computer after collecting through the phone?
Yeah.
Or how can you get the data in your computer to be collected in the phone? So it's more of a linkage there, the procedure, if it's possible. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you for those questions. So on the first question about individual access, yeah, absolutely. So we have, for example, we work with quite a lot of independent consultants who use TolaData. And so they have access to TolaData that they just use for their own use. We work with very small organizations, we work with large organizations, we've got all shapes and sizes. So we encourage you to get in touch and tell us about your requirements and what you need, and we can help you out with that. The second question on CoBot Toolbox. So I think you were thinking about when Malta was saying that he was putting the data into his phone and then it was showing up in the CoBot Toolbox screen on the computer. Is that correct? Okay, I'm going to assume that that was your question. So what Malta had done, he created a CoBot Toolbox account. And when we share the presentation, you'll see that there are the links there for how to create your own account, and it's free. It's an amazing service available to the sector. So you create your CoBot Toolbox account and you're on your computer, you create your surveys and you've got your form ready. There's an app for CoBot that you download onto your phone and it links to your form, and it's from that app that you access the form to enter your data. And then when you upload it, it automatically then integrates and appears in the system on your computer and in your account for CoBot. And then from TolaData, we also integrate directly with that CoBot account, and we can pull that data into TolaData to do the analysis. So all of those are linked. So you would have your TolaData account and your CoBot Toolbox account. And then if you wanted to collect the data on your phone, you could also download the app and then you can go and collect data offline on your phone. So I hope that answers your question.
Let's have Myra. Myra Dalio. Myra, please unmute yourself.
Okay. Good. Hello. Thank you so much for the presentation. So TolaData integrates different data tools, including Excel. So just like on Excel, can I use TolaData to check for duplicates? Say I have a list of trainees from multiple trainings. Can I use TolaData to check for duplicates? And if yes, can I detect duplicates can TolaData detect duplicate entries without using a unique ID field, unlike Excel?
Yeah. That's actually a really great question about data cleaning. So at the moment, we don't do so much data cleaning in TolaData, and there's actually a really important reason why. And it's because if you imported data to TolaData and you change it, your data set in TolaData is not going to match your source data. So there's like a fundamental principle of clean your data at the source. So if you've collected data in CoBot, we encourage you to clean your data in CoBot, so that if you take that data set from CoBot, you import it into TolaData, or you use it somewhere else, or you import it another time into TolaData, you're going to always import the same data set because you don't want to have two different versions of your data. Similarly, for Excel, we encourage you to do that correction and cleaning in Excel so that your source data set is always correct, and no matter where you use it, you're sure that you're using the same data. Otherwise, you're going to end up with different results in different places. So that's the answer to that question. Regarding the looking for duplication, so you would be still doing that in Excel. What you can do in TolaData is when you're doing your calculations, excuse me, is you can adjust for double counting. So if you had, say, two data sets, say you ran two trainings, and some people went to both trainings, and what you want to do is say how many people did we train all together, but you obviously don't want to count people twice just because they went to both trainings. And there is the functionality to adjust for that double counting. So if you know that there were 10% of the people went to both trainings, you can reduce by 10% and make that adjustment in TolaData.
Let's have Prakash Malki. Prakash, kindly unmute yourself and ask your question. Prakash?
Hello.
Hello, go ahead.
Am I audible to you?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. First of all, it was really wonderful presentation, and I just learned lots from your presentation and from this webinar. I have just a few questions regarding the accountability. Is this system support the accountability, like we work for the community of beneficiary? So is beneficiary or community accessible for our data? And what about the ethical consideration? How it addresses these ethical considerations in this sort of system? Because we are working since lots of years, no? But unfortunately, we couldn't compile the community feedback through these sort of systems. So, is it helpful for us to actually consolidate the community feedback? Thank you so much.
Great, thank you for those questions. So on the first one about accountability back to the community and the beneficiaries, which, you know, I personally feel really passionate about that issue, and I'm sure a lot of you do, that really, you know, these are the people who really matter in what we're doing, and how can they know what's happened and what's been done on their behalf and the services they've received. And the way that we do that in TolaData and the way that our clients do that is using those dashboards. So you could create a dashboard for a project that you're specifically thinking your target audience is the community. And you can put the results in there, you can put some information in there for them, and you can share that link. So obviously it depends on them having access to the internet or to computers, but there is a way that you can share that. I certainly know one of our clients, a lot of their community is connected via a Facebook group. So they share a link to the dashboard in that Facebook group so that anyone can go from that group at any time and they can see what's happening with the project, what are the latest results, how are the different things happening in different parts of the project. So that's the way that the accountability can, that kind of back reporting can happen. In terms of your historical data, yeah, I mean, we would suggest if you opened an account and you had a lot of data and it was maybe in silos, we can help you pull that data into TolaData so then it's all stored in one place. It also means, you know, maybe you come to TolaData and you're already 2 years into a 5-year project. Of course, it's great to pull all of that first 2 years of data into the system and put all of it in, and then you've got the full picture for your project. And we're happy to help you do that. And we have services and our team can help import that historical data and get everything set up.
Let's have Abdul Hamid. Abdul Hamid, unmute yourself, please.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm Sabine from Sri Lanka. So in that TolaData, I was observing that descriptive statistics data were analyzed. Will that enable some inferential statistics also, like regression and some time series data? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. And it's probably a much bigger question, and we'd be really happy if you wanted to contact us. We could talk to you in more detail about the kind of analysis you can do in TolaData, and also where you maybe move into more BI, and then like maybe use a tool like Tableau that has that much more complex analysis and calculation possibility. You can do time series and data, so you can see, you know, you've got your collected data, you can see your results over time, you can see your analysis against periodic targets. I know that we're right on 12, so I don't to dive really into that question, Abdul, I'd really welcome if you get in touch with us and we can talk to you in more detail about the kind of analysis you want to do and what you can do in TolaData and use the data sets within the system for that.
Let's have Velma, okay. Velma, kindly unmute yourself. Velma, okay. Okay, meanwhile, let's go to Domingos.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Go ahead.
Greeting from Mozambique. Greeting from Mozambique. I've got, first of all, I'd like to say, send congratulations to the presenters. The presentation was really amazing, and I've got some questions that I'd like to ask. First of all, is about subscriptions costs. I don't know if you can share with us, or otherwise you can share in private. I don't know. And I'd like to also ask about if the package includes training about use of the platform.
Yeah.
And the other question is if the package includes CoBot and Toolbox, if all these are included in the package.
Yeah.
And last one is about besides sending links to the donors, to the partners, is it possible to download reports and dashboards? Otherwise, if it's possible to export the reports and dashboards to Excel, for example. So I'd like to get more understanding about that.
Sure. So firstly, on the pricing, I've just put the link in the chat to our pricing page, and just a reminder, you'll see some toggle switches switch to the NGO prices, which are half price for the different user packages. So you can get, for example, a 2-user package is 49 euros per month. That's for an NGO. And we have different pricing packages for different numbers of users. And we welcome you to get in touch and to tell us how many users you need and have a look at that, and we can give you a quote for how that works. So yeah, you can have a look at the pricing there. And then your question was about the training. And oh no, so then you asked about if CoBot was included. So CoBot Toolbox is free. That's provided as a couple of universities and services that provide that service. So you can create a CoBot Toolbox account for free, which is really great. And then you can use that in conjunction with TolaData and other tools. So we don't include that in our package as such, because it's free anyway for you to log on. And as I said, the link for where you can create an account is in the presentation that we'll share after this. And I'm trying to remember what your other question was. I'm sorry. Could you repeat your last question that you asked? Oh, it was about the reports. So yeah, so you've got the dashboards. The dashboards also, as well as being able to share them, you can also print them as a PDF or save them as a PDF file. And then also throughout the platform, you can do those exports, and those exports always go down, they're CSV or Excel exports. So you can bring the data out into Excel, and you can export like a raw data set that you might want to do analysis on, but you can also export it as a report. So for example, I showed you that one export that we think of as like the log frame report, where it's like one indicator per line and the total results for that indicator. You can also export for an indicator, you can export all of the reported results and all the disaggregations of those. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get that data out into Excel to use for reports. And throughout the platform, you can see the little export button, and wherever you see it, whatever screen you're looking at, you can export that data into an Excel format. I hope that answers your question.
Dominic Batikayo. Dominic Batikayo. Kindly unmute yourself. Dominic Batikayo.
Yes. Am I loud and clear?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Dominic Batikayo from South Sudan, Juba.
Nice to be speaking with you. I've been to Juba back when I worked for Save the Children. Nice to be connected.
That's great. That's great. Greetings from Juba to you. I'm based in NGO Forum, South Sudan NGO Forum, but working for Center for Humanitarian Dialogue, a Geneva-based private diplomats dealing with mediation and the dialogue. Thank you so much. I'm not an M&E specialist, but somebody who is in management, managing some of the projects. So this presentation is very nice for me. And therefore, I would like to, first of all, to appreciate you, Joe, and your colleagues for wonderful presentation. I also must admit that I'm very sorry I have missed 3 of your presentations, which I registered for, but I could not attend due to other commitments. But today I was able to attend. I just wanted to go to something that you somehow answered to Mira, that was on the issue of validation and cleaning of data. What I did not pick well is the process that's through which we go to validate and clean data using the TolaData tool. Is what I did not pick very well, which I was trying to find out. If you have some little time, you can throw light on it to me. Otherwise, the presentation has been wonderful, and indeed I have been missing a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I'm glad you were able to join us today. I know we're running out of time, so this might be our last question, but it's a good one about this data quality and data cleaning. So maybe the first thing to say, and this is one of the great things with digital tools, is that the way that you set up your data collection with a digital tool, you can already be controlling to get the best data possible, because you create drop-down lists, you structure it, you say, well, you can only select these 5 answers, and no one can type it in the wrong way or misspell it, because it's got, it's a drop-down list. So it's already going to come through a lot cleaner than if you used paper-based forms. So that's the first thing to say about digital collection. And then what I was saying in answer to the other question is that we encourage people to clean the data in the tool where it was first collected. So if you collected data with CoBot, your first place that you've got it is CoBot. So clean it there so that your original data set is clean. Otherwise, if you cleaned it in TolaData, then it's not going to match. And later, if you use the CoBot data set again, then suddenly your results are going to look different. So we really encourage people to clean their data in Excel, in CoBot, in the source where it was first collected, and then pull it in. When you pull it into TolaData, actually one of the places where you start to then have more QA possibilities is when you start using that data. So when you start looking and going, okay, what are my disaggregations? You quickly see if the disaggregations don't fit. Maybe, lots of people have misspelt north or something, or somehow it's not matching, and you'll pick that up. And that's another way that you can have QA. But that was what I was saying on the data cleaning, that it's really got to happen at that source level.
And let's have Yugas Amel. Yugas Amel. Please unmute yourself, Yugas.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me very well.
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So I'm Armel Oguni. I'm sitting in Cotonou, Benin Republic. So thank you very much for this important and great webinar. So I have two questions. The very first one is actually related to the language available in the system. So here in Benin, I'm actually working. I have a lot of clients, and then local NGOs and some international NGOs as well. And our working language is actually French. So does TolaData work in other language? Is the user-friendly interface available in French, for instance? So that's the question that I have. The question is actually to know if it is possible, to export TolaData to IATI, the International Air Transparency Initiative interchange formats. So this is also an increasing demand here from the clients that I'm working with here in Cotonou. So I actually have 2 more questions. Sorry for that. The third one is to know very quickly what's your software delivery model? Is it a software service or is it other option available? So, and the last one is actually a request. I hope I'll get a chance to follow up on this with you. So like I mentioned, the colleagues and INGOs with whom I am currently working with actually have a lot of demands when it's come to management of data capture and injections, indicator measurement and metadata management as well, linkage to external and founder-driven frameworks such as theory of changes, performance measurement framework, etc. And also program and budget management, because as you know, it'd be very interesting to also have budget information when it's happened to all information related to project that are included in the system, and also visualization that you have already talked about, and also the quality business. But about all this, I have already consulted most of them, and then we've already created a list of business and technical needs. And I'm really looking forward to following up with you guys and then to share these business needs and technical needs with you so that you could also explain to me more, what is available and not possible with TolaData, because we are in the process of making a decision about the best vendor. So yeah, that's what I have, and thanks so much. It's been great to meet you guys, and you're doing well. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And wow, those are really great questions, because I can't believe I didn't mention that, yes, TolaData is fully translated and available in French, Spanish, German, Portuguese, and actually Vietnamese, because we had a client that wanted it in Vietnamese, and we can add other languages if needed, but it is fully available in French. So each user can choose the language that they want the platform to appear in. We also have full user support and training available in French. We're very lucky that we have a number of French speakers in our organization. So they'd be very happy to also give you a demo of the tool in French. So if you wanted to get in touch with us, we can arrange a demo for you in French for you and the team. And we can show you all of the features that we have and go through your requirements. The second question that you had about IATI, I'm really pleased that you mentioned it, because a lot of people somehow still don't know about IATI, and it is an increasingly important and really valuable transparency initiative that we have in the sector. So TolaData does have IATI features, and you can request that they be switched on. We've mapped all of our platform to the IATI reporting fields. We have the additional fields that are required by IATI for each project. And then you can have exports that are ready for IATI. So you can export your data already mapped and ready to do your IATI reporting. All you have to do is combine that data with your financial data from your finance system, which of course, that's how IATI reports. You combine your results with your finance, and then you submit it to IATI. We also have a partner called Data for Development, who are really, their expertise in IATI reporting is second to none. And they can also help you with the preparation of those reports if you need additional assistance and the setup of that. But we do have full IATI features for your result reporting available in TolaData, and we'd be happy to show you that in a demo and show you how it all works. You also asked about whether we had what the models were for provision. So we are a software as a service. That's it. We only provide ourselves as a software as a service. And we do that to ensure that everyone always has the latest system, all of the updates, all the new features, all of the enhancements, and also full access to our user support, which, as I said, is available in English, German, French, or Spanish for the user support. So yeah, then you always have that live user support. So we really look forward to speaking with you. Please get in touch with us. Just so everyone knows, you can also email us. You can go to our website to contact us, or just email info@toladata.com, or you can email me directly, joe@toladata.com. It's just J-O. We'd be really happy to hear from you. Would welcome the opportunity to set up a time we can give you a demo and talk more about your specific requirements. So
let's have 2 more questions.
Okay.
2 more questions. We'll take one question from Ibrahim Bashir. Ibrahim, please unmute yourself and ask your question, please. Ibrahim Bashir.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I am Ibrahim Bashir. I'm calling from Nigeria. I work with an NGO, Society for Family Health, as a clinical supervisor in the HIV project to key populations. I want to appreciate all the presenters for the wonderful insight and for the wonderful knowledge sharing. I have this question, especially as this regards M&E. I used to see a lot of this M&E learning, where you see MEAL, meal, and then in some other situations you see only M&E. You know, so please, I want to know what's the difference between this M&E alone and the M&E and learning. So my second question is, there's this, you tend to see a lot of online courses, either certificate or diploma, that they offer data science. And being a medical personnel who works in an NGO and interested seriously in data, I attempted to join some of these data science courses, but on the long run, I tend to realize if it's not really data. So this, my question is, this data science, is there any way, is it applicable to all, cadres of staff or providers, including healthcare providers, or is just strictly for certain sectors? So I just need more elaboration on this data science as regards its relationship with M&E. Thank you so much.
Thank you for those questions. So your first one just about M&E or MEAL, MEAL, or sometimes people now talk about RMEL, which is Research, Monitoring, Evaluation and Learning. They're just all the acronyms. I mean, it's a big field. So I guess we all started, we were really thinking about monitoring and evaluation. And then people were like, well, if you're monitoring everything, surely what matters is that you're learning from what you're monitoring and evaluating. You're learning from your results. So that's why they added the L in there, so that you've also got learning in there. And then, I've seen people add the R in there because they're like, well, it's also about research. What's the research that you're doing before you do the monitoring, and then you do the evaluation, and then you do your learning. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I know we use those terms kind of interchangeably. We at TolaData very often just talk about M&E. We just, defer to that. But of course, it's all part of the bigger picture of this whole field of work. That's all really important. And I think it's great to remember that actually, if you're going to do monitoring, if you're going to do evaluation, it's only really valuable if you're going to learn from it. So definitely add that L on the end. It's very important. Regarding data science, so I think data science is an amazing field and it's growing. There's a lot of courses out there. You're right. I think it has a lot of relevance, but it's important if you're someone that's really going to get into your digital data and what you can do with it and how you can do really much more complex analyses. So, at TolaData, we work with data scientists to come and help us. When someone needs a very complex report or a complex analysis, we use data scientists to help us analyze it. We actually got a data scientist to help us think about those things we showed you where we had the aggregation and the weighting and the adjustments, and there's really complex calculations happening behind the scenes. And we're like, okay, we want to make this easy at the front, but of course we have to make sure all those calculations at the back are accurate. And we got data scientists to help us make sure that those were correct. And that's what data scientists do. They're really good at those very complex calculations and making sure that when you do a big formula, what comes out at the end is the right result. So data science is definitely an important field and it has a lot of relevance. Not everyone needs to be a data scientist, but we definitely need data scientists in the sphere to come and help us. And it has relevance for all the different sectors, health, education, everywhere, to do those more complex analyses. So yeah, that's what I would add to that. I don't know, Beatrice, if that was the last question or if you wanted to ask
let's have one more.
Okay.
The last question. If there are any other questions, they can send to the email. So let's have Ambrose. Ambrose, ask the last question, please. Kindly unmute yourself. Ambrose?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi, Ambrose.
Hi, thank you. First of all, I'd like to appreciate you for the excellent presentation and the insights about TolaData. So I've got 3 questions to ask about the presentation. The first question is about budget tracking. Does the software enable you to do budget tracking for each and every activity? That's my first question. And then my second question that regards to M&E planning, does the platform allow the user do bi-monthly plans, or it only restricts you to monthly plans? And then the last question, in comparison to other offline softwares like the SPSS, the Excel and eViews, does the software, the TolaData software, perform other functions like analysis of variance, uncover, regression, correlation, and forecasting, so that you are able to draw inferences and do comparisons between the results? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for those questions. So something we didn't go into today because we really wanted to focus on the MEAL, the monitoring, evaluation, learning features of TolaData. We do have also an activity planning feature, an activity management tool in there as well. If you do a free trial, you'll be able to see it there. And within that, we have budget features so that you can put budget in against each of your activities and keep track of your spend. Something that I just want to say as somebody that used to be a grant manager, this will never replace the budget management you need to do in your finance system. You know, when you come to report to your donor, you're always going to want to pull that financial report from your finance system, combine it with the results from TolaData and create your overall report. But we do allow you to do some activity budget tracking and keep track of your spend in TolaData, which can also be helpful when you're working with partners. You know, you don't see each other's financial system, but you can have a shared view of keeping track of how the budget's going for the activity. You asked about doing M&E planning bi-monthly. Absolutely. TolaData, you can set up to rather do periodic targets bi-monthly. You can do set your frequencies by that. So that's all possible. It's very flexible in that regard. And then your last question about analysis. So those kind of more complex analysis, where we're getting into more of that business information, that data science side of things, that's when we encourage you to put your data into something like Tableau or Power BI and do all of that kind of complex analysis. TolaData is really thinking about managing your project, like keeping track of your project, visualizing your results, reporting those results. And then when you want to do a really complex analysis, that's when we would say integrate into analytics tools such as those, to use those ones. But we'll share everything that we've shown you today. We'll share the presentation. Please come to our website. Please get in touch. We're really happy to keep this conversation going. If you have more questions, reach out to us anytime. It's really been such a pleasure to speak with you all today. And thank you again to John and everyone at the Strategia Netherlands team for giving us this opportunity. It's really a pleasure to collaborate with you on this webinar.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation, Joe and Malte. That was very insightful. As you can see from the chat section and also the questions that have been asked, TolaData is time-saving and easy to use. So I believe that was very insightful for all of us. Thank you. So let's have our next presenter, Rachel, who will shed some light on Strategia Netherlands and Capacity Africa. Rachel, are you there? Rachel? Kindly unmute, Rachel.
This is okay. Hello, everyone. Greetings, everyone. Can you hear me? Hello?
No, we can't hear you clearly, Rachel.
Hello? Hi, everyone. Can you hear me now? Is everyone able to hear me?
Rachel?
I can hear you.
Beatrice?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Rachel. I'm a training manager at Capacity Africa, which is an affiliate of Strategia Netherlands. Allow me to just share a screen of the courses we have. Strategia Netherlands and Capacity Africa are focused on making development and humanitarian work more effective. We offer business courses, development courses, and humanitarian courses with over 10 years experience, 1,480 alumni worldwide, and 300 completed courses. We have 3 different course levels. We have the certificate level that goes for 3 months at $400, diploma level for 6 months at $800, and the postgraduate diploma level for 12 months at $1,200. For the Strategia Netherlands course fee, it's normally in euros. Some of the courses we offer, as you can see on the screen, are monitoring and evaluation, just to name a few: public health, food security, disaster management, humanitarian logistics, finance management for NGOs, water sanitation and hygiene, community development, procurement and supply chain management, project management. And as you can see, we have our websites listed. One of the websites for Capacity Africa is www.capacityafrica.com. And for the Strategia Netherlands is www.strategianetherlands.nl. We shall share this on the comment section so that you are able to view all the courses that we offer and you can apply. Our course intakes are normally the 1st of every month till the 15th. March intakes are currently ongoing, and we have a 20% discount for the participants attending today for today's webinar. You can start your registration as soon as possible, and the offer runs up to the 1st of March. So kindly register, and our emails are listed on this slide. We have info@capacityafrica.com, and for the Strategia Netherlands, we have info@strategianetherlands.nl. Again, we shall share the emails on the chat section so that you are able to apply for the courses. Please take advantage of the discount and register, and we look forward to your participation in our program. Thank you so much for your time and for joining today's webinar. We wish you the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Everyone, that was Rachel. And as she has indicated, we have 20% discount for all our courses. So take time, go visit our YouTube channel. You can also visit our website, and you'll find we have several courses that you can register for and take advantage of as it is right now. So let me take this opportunity to give Joe Bennett an opportunity to give us some closing remarks. Joe?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the closing remarks, as I said, is that it's just been a real pleasure to speak with everyone today and to hear all your questions. I'm really excited to keep working on digital solutions and keep this conversation going with all of you. So we encourage you to get in touch. You can also please connect with myself and Malta on LinkedIn. We have a lot that we're sharing on there, and we always love being connected with everyone in the sector and sharing those conversations, growing our network together. So please also connect with us on LinkedIn, send us an email, start a free trial, get in touch with us. We really welcome the opportunity to keep working with you and look at how we can support you in the work that you're doing in your various organizations. So thank you so much. And thank you again to Strategia Netherlands for hosting this webinar today.
Thank you so much. I would now like to express my gratitude to all of you for your presence and contribution to make this webinar a great success. I want to extend my gratitude especially to TolaData team That's Joe Bennett and Malte. The presentation you presented are very insightful. Digital tools bridges the gap and guides us through the processes. Thank you, John Karegwa, Strategia Netherlands, Walter, Rachel, Nikron, and the IT team, all the participants across the world. I do say thank you. I appreciate the fact that you took your time off your busy schedules to be part of this webinar. To all the presenters, that was a wonderful presentation. We have indeed learned so much. We have been inspired to take a step to use the digital tools. We have been motivated to employ the various available digital tools as well. It has been indeed an opportunity that I believe most of us, if not all of us, have been waiting for. Let us therefore grab the opportunity, grab the chance to take up what we have been taught or what have been shared and make it in use, and also grab the chance to take up the 20% discount offered on our courses. Sign up for the diplomas, sign up for the postgraduate diplomas, sign up for the certificate courses, and get to learn even more. I wish you all the best in your endeavors. Thank you for taking your time. You can get the recorded session. You'll also be able to watch it on our YouTube channel. We'll share it, and also you can check our website. Thank you. Guests can leave at their pleasure.
Thank you very
Be
much,
sure to
everyone.
sign up.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, thank you.
Let's keep talking, and thank you very much. That was a very, very wonderful presentation, and I'm sure the participants have learned a lot. Thank you, TolaData. Log in toladata.com, info@toladata.com for more information. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Did you know that 67% of Africans don't have access to proper housing, 56% have no access to water, and 79% have no access to food? These are the grim statistics of challenges facing Africa today, even as the continent works to develop. This development demands for well-trained personnel. At Capacity Africa Training Institute, we have been leading the charge in changing Africa's fortunes. We are the leading development training company in Africa, offering institutional training solutions and online and distance learning in business, development, and humanitarian courses. Over the last 10 years, we have trained over 10,000 staff from NGOs, governments, and the United Nations in Africa. Our catalog consists of over 200 career-focused online courses to choose from, and registration for diploma and postgraduate courses is now open for the following courses: Postgraduate Diploma in Monitoring and Evaluation, Postgraduate Diploma in Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, Diploma in Community Development, Postgraduate Diploma in Strategic Planning and Management, Postgraduate Diploma in Grants Management, Diploma in Project Management, Diploma in Nutrition and Dietetics, Diploma in Gender and Development, Diploma in Leadership and Management, Diploma in Finance Management for NGOs, and many more. We have also partnered with the European International University to offer an executive MBA. Once you register, you will have access to our team of experienced trainers and specialist consultants who will guide you on your course whenever you need them. The cost for diploma courses is $800, while postgraduate courses cost $1,200. The cost of a one-year MBA course is €1,500. Visit www.capacityafrica.com for more information. Are you interested in building a career in the development and humanitarian sector? Then, Strategia Netherlands is the best option for you. We offer training solutions to the United Nations, governments, NGOs, and other development organizations worldwide. Make your online application now for Diploma in Monitoring and Evaluation, Diploma in Grants Management, Diploma in Conflict Management, Diploma in Disaster Management, Diploma in Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, and many more. The cost for diploma courses is 800 euros, while postgraduate courses cost 1,200 euros. Visit www.strategianetherlands.nl for more information. Did you know